G'day everybody and welcome to another episode of Automotive Carnage. In today's episode we start a new project car, and what better than this LC Torana. I mean really it should go on a rubbish dump, but that's what we do here. Yes, g'day everyone, my name's DJ and thank you so much for joining us on this very exciting episode of Automotive Carnage when we get to start a brand new project. And yeah, we chose to start with this, an LC Torana that was found about 300 kilometers east of Kalgoorlie, dragged back into town, sold on to me, and then sat in my yard for probably a year or so in the back corner, and really not knowing what to do with it because I'll tell you up front, personally, not the biggest fan of Toranas, but I know you lot love them, and I have a friend who loves them as well. And so Paul from Old School Only hit me up. That's a fantastic YouTube channel, by the way, so you need to go over and subscribe to his channel right now. Come back and I'll tell you the story. He rang me up one day, he's like, hey, have you still got that Torana out the back there? And I'm like, why, yes I do. He's like, awesome, I want to rebuild it. And I'm like, are you insane? But no, he was dead serious, and I gotta commend the guy for that. So, as I said, this car was found about 300 kilometers east of Kalgoorlie, out in the desert in the scrub. A good friend of mine by the name of Nick found it, and he dragged it in with a bunch of other parts and other vehicles that he found, and it sat in his yard for a long time, and he had a grand idea of joining all these Toranas together to build one out of the lot. Unfortunately, he needed a bit of cash, and he offered it to me. I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to build a car that's very special, maybe not so special for me, but special for you lot and the viewers, because I know how crazy you Australians go about your Toranas. So I brought it off him, and then it just kind of sat because I did not know what to do with it. So when Paul rang me and kind of gave me his crazy idea, I'm like, you know what? You're a madman, and I absolutely love it. So the key point to this story is that he lives in Sydney, and I'm on the other side of the country, just outside of Perth. So he's going to fly over. We have 3 weeks to build this car, and then he's going to drive it home to Sydney, across the Nullarbor and the rest of the country. So we need to get this vehicle up, running, stopping, and reliable for a cross-country journey in 3 weeks. This is going to be hectic. So I'll take you around the vehicle now, and I'll show you exactly why it's going to be so hectic, because this car needs engine work, gearbox work, brakes work, suspension work, steering work, body work, as you can plainly see. Rear diff needs to be rebuilt. Tail lights need to be redone, headlight and grille need to be run, everything. Everything that can be done to a car to restore it needs to be done in a very short amount of time. Let me show you around this vehicle a little bit closer in detail and show you what we're working with. The first thing you might notice is that this car is a bit wonky and just so much is missing or broken. So it's wonky, the front guard's torn up, the front doors are on the wonky angle, the rear doors aren't even there, it has absolutely no glass left in it. The rear wheel is too high up into the rear well. The boot's missing. The parcel shelf's in good nick though. So, you know, it hasn't had the holes cut in it for any speakers in its time. That is absolutely mangled. Every panel is dented. Actually, no, I think the roof is okay. The roof is, actually, no, there you go. There's a dent in the roof as well. Doors missing. I mean, look at this one. This one is absolutely cactus. It's trash. The floor, well, what floor? There is no floor to talk about. The interior is gone. The seats are absolutely destroyed. This car should go to a rubbish dump. I mean, I don't even think it can be salvaged for parts. It is that bad. I mean, look at the grille. Everything is just damaged. Everything. Let's open this bonnet here, and I'll show you what I've got. In fact, I've got to move it because it's not even bolted down. It does have its original engine, which I believe, yep, is a 138. But there's only half of it there. Intake's gone, exhaust is gone, the distributor's gone, the front's gone, the whole cooling system is gone. Look inside here. You know, it's just, oh my gosh, do we have our work cut out for us? But there's something that we definitely have, and that is determination. And we really, really want to make this mission succeed and get this Torana into a rolling and safe, reliable state in 3 weeks to get it going. I'm confident behind the tools. Paul is definitely confident behind the tools, and you guys are going to love him when you finally get a chance to meet him. But he doesn't fly in for another 15 days. So my goal today is to strip it all out, get all the interior out of there, get the water blaster out, give it a good wash, and really see what it is that we have to work with. You know, like at the end of the day, it may not be that bad. I have checked over the chassis rails. The chassis rails are fine. The bones are good. It's a solid car. It just needs a bit of massaging and a bit of love to bring it back to its former glory. And that is what we do here on Automotive Carnage. We get those wrecks, those diamonds in the rough, they're absolutely junk, and we bring it back to life because every car deserves to come back to life. And in these days, the more old cars we can get to survive, and the more old cars we can get people to appreciate, the better. Let's get into this thing. Let's start stripping all the interior parts out. Let's see what trinkets we find, and let's give it a good old scrub. Well, I have to say the Torana cleaned up a lot better than I anticipated. Yes, there's no flaw. Yes, every panel still has a dent, but you know, it's DJ Mint. Should be right, mate. We can make this work. Everything is fixable. Dents can pop out. Floors can be rewelded. We're going to get there. It's okay. The first thing I want to do though is I want to get this thing up in the air. Hopefully the hoist isn't going to play games today. Sometimes it blows the RCDs and it just doesn't want to move, but fingers crossed it goes up. And let's look underneath this car because we've actually never been able to get under there and really see how bad the chassis rails are, how bad the diff mounts are, suspension mounts, all that kind of stuff. So let's get up in the air and yeah, we'll have to squeeze underneath, see what it looks like. Into this Torana build, and we've started the tear down and it's gone pretty well so far. First up was the diff. It came out pretty simple. Only had two small issues. One is that the rear training arm is pretty much non-existent, and it's even rusted out the mounting where it goes into the housing itself. So that housing, we can't use it. We have to replace it with another one that we have spare, but that's okay. We've got about two, I think, sitting out in the paddock. We'll go show you those shortly. The other thing that caught me a little off guard, which is something I've never seen before, is that these little spring retaining nuts on the bottom. But again, it's only one nut, so once you figure out what's going on there, pretty simple. And then we moved on to the front end, and I have a feeling that Torana people were yelling at their screens and telling me how I was doing that wrong, and there's a much easier way of doing it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So the idea is that we're going to be replacing all the bushes and the shocks in this front end. And as I've never worked on a Torana before, I just started doing the process I normally do when pulling down a car. And just taking one part off at a time, taking the calipers off, the discs, the hub, and just slowly taking it off as you work your way towards the vehicle. Now, as I came to the upper control arm, I noticed that it goes around the subframe here. And if we go inside the engine bay, you can see that the upper control arm bolts to this wishbone that was on the other side of the subframe. What that means for the less savvy Torana people like myself is that to change those upper control arm bushes, you actually have to drop the entire subframe to lift that control arm off over the top of it. Yeah, I didn't know that to begin with. Now, it's not the biggest problem because ultimately everything that's connected to the subframe we have to take out anyway. The main thing being is the original 138 engine. Now, we've got a 173 sitting over here that's going to go into it. So we've got to take this out anyway. So I'm not all that worried about dropping the subframe. It's only 6 extra bolts. And all it means for us is that we change the process in the way that we're stripping this car down. My initial idea was to replace all the suspension, brakes, and everything that makes the car roll and move before Paul got here. But now that we have to drop the entire subframe, it just means the order of the way we do things is a little bit different. So ultimately, it's not going to be that much harder. Plus also, we have an upside to that is that I actually have a couple of spare subframes for this car. In fact, I have quite a few spare parts for this car, so let's go check those out now, and I'll show you what parts we have to draw from. I present to you the Torana stack. What we have here is a collection of Torana parts and body cuts that are all bush found by my friend Nick, who we got the LC off. All this came in a package deal with the car, as his intention was always to do what we're doing now and get the LC on the road again and running nicely. So all of this is going to go towards helping get that LC back on the road. Along with the fronts, the 2 rears, and the midsection, over this direction, we also have a lot of loose parts. Over here, we have the subframe department of our paddock, where we've got diffs for Suzuki's, rear subframes out of Falcons, front subframes out of Commodores, Subarus, all sorts going on here. And we like to use these when we do more of our more wild conversions and modifications. But anyway, we're after this pallet, and as you can see, we have 2 front subframes for Toranas, a tunnel for other Torana, a diff out of an HX, again, just all sorts of random bits and pieces that we've collected over the years of doing automotive carnage. And again, as you can see, the upper control arm that started this whole adventure wraps right round the subframe mount, so it's got to come off over the top. So we have a lot of fun figuring that out for the first time. Again, haven't played with Toranas before. Anyway, let's get into the next part of this project. That was going so well until it wasn't. As predicted, the hoist unfortunately is having some major electrical problems, and it just will not go up any higher than that. What that means is that we have a subframe engine and transmission sitting there on a dolly ready to be moved, but we can't get the chassis or the body high enough to actually roll that out. So that's okay. We've got there's 2 Sparkies in my little town, and both of them absolutely flat out. And we'll try over the next couple of days to get them here and to fix this hoist once and for all, which would be awesome. And if not though, we can always just bring the tractor in here and lift that whole body up to pull out the subframe and engine. Anyway, as I said, it's going really, really well. Everything is all disconnected. It's made a massive mess on my concrete floor, but that's okay. We can always clean that up. And yeah, really happy with the progress in here. So that is the front dropped, ready to go. The rear end has been tidied up. I've given it a quick bath and clean up on the inside. So that is the original diff housing that came out of this Torana. And this housing is one that we got given in amongst all the spare parts that came with this car. So we've cleaned this all out. We're using this one because the bottom trading arm mounts are actually in one piece. I've just cleaned this all up. The wind's blowing and it's just blowing hay all through my nice clean parts. So I'm going to give them a nice clean, but that's okay. As I say, the lower trading arm mounts are good on this one. As you can see on this, they have completely rusted away to absolutely nothing. We're using the original center though. That is in really good condition. It's got a little bit of play in it, but nothing that's going to worry us too much. Bearings are all in good shape, so that is fantastic. It's an open center with 3.08 gears, which are apparently really good for a Torana. So that's fantastic. Along with that, we're going to be using the axles that came out of the housing that was in here. They are really good. The bearings are fine. The seals, surprisingly, are actually, it's got like little O-rings around the bearing race, and they're still soft and rubbery, so that's absolutely fantastic. We don't need to replace those. That will do. So slap those in to that housing with that center. That is going to be absolutely fantastic. I guess the next thing I should probably show you guys is the plethora, absolute plethora of brand new parts that we have to go into this car. That's just going to finish it off and make this thing absolutely fantastic. So let's lay this all out on the ground now, and I'll show you what we got. What we have here is an absolutely fantastic collection of brand new parts, and this isn't even everything. So we've got just about everything we need here. So we've got fuel tank filler necks, we've got bushes, we've got all brake parts, we've got brand new master cylinder, we've got shocks, we've got brake caliper rebuild kits, we've got a little bit of spray paint to fix up any repairs we do, new fuel sender unit, we've got lenses for the rear tail lights, we've got new front headlights, we have brake hoses, fuel cap, rubbers for the windscreens, we have rust cuts, brand new floor pans for all 4 floors. We have a brand new alloy radiator, we've got timing belts, we've got wing mirrors, we've got wheel bearings, carpet, underlay, just about everything you would need to make this thing a functioning and reliable driver. And that's just it. We're not going for show quality, we're not going for summer nats. All we want is a reliable, consistent driver so that Paul is able to get this wonderful piece of Australian motoring history across the Nullarbor. That's all it needs to do for this part of the build. So stay tuned to Automotive Carnage. We will have the entire build series here from what we've done today all the way through to driving this thing out the gate. Jump onto Old School Only. I'll link it down in the description below. Probably pulling a little thing up here if I can remember how to do that. And Paul's channel, he will be covering the road trip. I may or may not be joining him. I don't know yet. And then also jump onto Downshift with Byron, as he'll be joining us every weekend for behind the scenes looks and maybe some live updates on this build as we progress over the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Automotive Carnage. I'll catch you guys on the next one where, Paul will be here and let's start pulling some of these parts into the car and kind of ask him why are we doing this? Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. See you next time.